Hey everyone, welcome back to Talk Tickers, where we break down earnings calls and kind of give you the information you need to make informed decisions, as an investor.
Absolutely.
And today we are going to be diving deep into XPO's Q4 2024 earnings call.
Yeah.
And this is a company that's been making waves, in the transportation industry. And we're going to be specifically looking at the less-than-truckload market.
Yeah.
Or LTL, as it's often called.
Right.
And you might be asking, why is LTL so exciting right now?
Yeah.
Well, it's a segment of the trucking industry where freight from multiple customers is kind of combined into a single truckload.
Yeah.
And it makes it a very efficient and cost-effective way to move goods around the country.
Absolutely. And XPO is really the one to watch in this space.
Yeah, they've been absolutely crushing it.
Yeah.
Even in what's been a pretty challenging freight environment. So,
exactly. I've been seeing a lot of softness in the freight market lately.
right.
XPO seems to be defying the odds and posting some really impressive numbers.
Okay, so let's get into these numbers.
Yeah.
First up, revenue. They hit a record $8.1 billion for the full year, which is a solid 4% increase.
Right. And that revenue growth translated into some serious profit.
Yeah.
Their adjusted EBITDA, which is a measure of profitability that takes into account things like depreciation and amortization, soared 27% to $1.3 billion.
Wow.
That's a sign that they're not just growing, but they're also becoming more efficient and profitable.
That's fantastic. And what about earnings per share? That all-important metric that investors love to watch.
Yeah, adjusted diluted EPS, another key profitability measure, jumped a whopping 31% to $3.83 for the year.
So from a financial standpoint, XPO is clearly in a very strong position.
Absolutely.
All right, so we've kind of established that XPO is doing well financially, but what's driving this success? What's setting them apart from the competition?
Well, their LTL segment is definitely the star of the show. They're delivering outstanding customer service, making strategic investments in their network, and leveraging technology to boost efficiency. It's a powerful combination that's allowing them to outperform the market, even in these uncertain economic times.
Okay, so let's break down each of those factors, starting with customer service. I mean, in the world of logistics, keeping customers happy is paramount, right?
Oh, absolutely. And XPO is setting the bar high.
Yeah.
Their damage claims ratio dropped to a record low of 0.2%, down from 0.3% last year.
Wow.
That means fewer shipments are getting damaged in transit, which is a huge win for both XPO and their customers.
That is impressive. But what about speed and reliability? Are they getting those shipments delivered on time?
They are.
Well,
in fact, their on-time performance has improved for 11 consecutive quarters.
wow.
That's almost 3 years of consistent improvement, which is a testament to their operational excellence.
So they're delivering goods safely on time and with minimal damage. That's a winning formula for sure.
Yeah.
But how are they achieving this level of service quality?
Well, they've been making significant investments in their network, both in terms of physical infrastructure and technology. For example, they integrated 25 new service centers into their network in 2024 alone.
That's a lot of expansion.
It is.
And what about their fleet? I know the trucking industry relies heavily on having modern, reliable trucks and trailers.
Right. They've been aggressively expanding and upgrading their fleet as well.
Okay.
They've added 5,000 tractors and a staggering 15,000 trailers since 2021, bringing their average fleet age down to a youthful 4.1 years.
Oh, wow. That's going to make a huge difference in terms of reliability and fuel efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what else I find fascinating? XPO is the only LTL carrier in North America that has its own in-house trailer manufacturing facility.
That's right. It's a unique asset that gives them greater control over their supply chain and allows them to customize their trailers to meet their specific needs.
Okay, so we've talked about customer service and network investments. Let's move on to the third piece of the puzzle, technology. How is XPO leveraging technology to gain an edge?
They're using some pretty cutting-edge technology to optimize their operations and boost efficiency.
Okay.
One example is their use of AI to forecast volume trends.
Wait, so they're using AI to predict how much freight they'll need to move? That's like having a crystal ball for your business.
Exactly.
Wow.
And by accurately forecasting volume, they can optimize their labor hours at service centers, ensuring they have the right number of people in the right place at the right time. This has led to consistent productivity improvements throughout 2024.
So they're not just throwing bodies at the problem. They're using data and AI to make smarter decisions.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the bottom line. All these investments in customer service, network expansion, and technology must be costing them a fortune, right?
Well, they are investing heavily, but they're also becoming much more cost efficient.
Okay.
One of their key strategies is line haul insourcing.
Okay. Now I'm lost.
Oh.
What exactly is line haul insourcing?
So line haul refers to the long-distance transportation of freight between service centers.
Oh.
Traditionally, many LTL carriers outsource a significant portion of their line haul operations to third-party trucking companies. But XPO has been bringing more of these operations in-house.
So they're basically cutting out the middleman and doing more of the trucking themselves.
That's right. And by doing so, they've been able to reduce their purchase transportation costs by a remarkable 32% in 2024.
Wow.
In Q4 alone, their outsourced miles plummeted to just 10.7% of total miles, a drop of almost 900 basis points year over year.
Wow. That's a huge shift. But why is insourcing so beneficial?
Well, for one, it gives them greater control over their costs and capacity. They're not at the mercy of fluctuating truckload rates, which can be very volatile. And when those rates inevitably rise in the next upcycle, XPO will be in a much stronger position to protect their margins.
That's smart. It's like they're playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. They're thinking ahead and positioning themselves for success no matter what the market throws at them. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've seen that XPO is delivering impressive financial performance driven by their strong LTL business. They're investing heavily in their network and technology, and they're becoming incredibly cost-efficient. But what about their international operations?
That's a great question, and it's an area where XPO is also showing promising results, especially considering the challenging economic conditions in Europe. They're navigating those headwinds pretty effectively.
Yeah, a lot of people are focused on, the North American performance, but, it's important to remember that XPO is a global player.
Right.
And despite a softer macroeconomic environment in Europe, they still managed to increase revenue by 3% for the full year, which is actually, better than the overall industry performance over there.
Yeah, so even with all the challenges in Europe, inflation, slow growth, and geopolitical uncertainty, they're still holding their own.
And even outpacing some of their competitors.
Exactly. And their UK operations were a particular bright spot with double-digit organic revenue growth year over year. That's a clear indication that they're finding ways to adapt and succeed in different markets.
Okay, so they're not a one-trick pony.
Right.
They've got a global vision and a diversified business model.
Yeah.
But tell me, are their margins in Europe as impressive as what we're seeing in their North American LTL segment?
Well, the European market is a bit different. They're facing some unique challenges there.
Yeah.
So their margins aren't quite at the same level. But, here's the key takeaway. XPO is actively working to optimize their European operations and right-size their cost structure to navigate the current headwinds. They're not just sitting back and waiting for the market to improve. They're taking proactive steps to position themselves for future success.
Okay, that's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of their North American LTL success, but, it's important to see how they're managing the rest of their business as well. It sounds like they're taking a strategic long-term approach, which is crucial for any company, especially in a cyclical industry like transportation.
I agree. They're clearly focused on building a sustainable, resilient business that can thrive in any market environment.
Okay.
And that brings us to another important aspect of XPO's operations.
Yeah.
Sustainability.
Sustainability. Okay, this is interesting. Tell me more about what they're doing in this space.
Well, XPO understands that sustainability is no longer just a nice to have. It's a must-have for any responsible company. They've set ambitious goals to reduce their carbon emissions, improve their energy efficiency, and promote sustainable practices throughout their supply chain.
Okay, that's great to hear. But what are they actually doing to achieve those goals? What specific initiatives are they undertaking?
For starters, they're investing in alternative fuel vehicles, including electric and natural gas trucks, to reduce their reliance on fossil fuels. They're also optimizing their routes and logistics to minimize mileage and fuel consumption. Every little bit counts when it comes to reducing their carbon footprint.
Yeah, those are some smart moves. It sounds like they're taking a comprehensive approach, addressing both their own operations and their broader supply chain.
That's right. They're working with their suppliers and customers to encourage sustainable practices throughout the entire network. It's not just about making changes within their own company. It's about collaborating and influencing others to create a larger impact.
I'm impressed. It's not just about talking the talk. They're walking the walk when it comes to sustainability. But here's a question that pops into my mind. We're talking about a company in the transportation industry, which is traditionally associated with heavy emissions and environmental impact. Isn't there a potential conflict between their sustainability goals and their core business?
That's a valid point, and it's a challenge that many companies in this industry are facing. But here's the thing. XPO is demonstrating that sustainability and profitability don't have to be mutually exclusive.
Okay, so I'm curious to hear how they're making that work.
By reducing their energy consumption and waste, they're saving money. And by investing in alternative fuel vehicles, they're positioning themselves for a future where fossil fuels are likely to become even more expensive and heavily regulated. So it's a win-win situation. They're reducing their environmental impact and improving their bottom line at the same time.
That makes sense. It's not just about doing the right thing. It's also about smart business. Sustainability can actually be a driver of profitability in the long run. But let's be honest, sometimes it feels like companies talk about sustainability mostly for PR purposes. How do we know that XPO is truly committed to this and not just greenwashing?
That's a fair question, and it's always important to be skeptical.
Right.
But in XPO's case, there are a few things that suggest they're serious about sustainability. First, they've set specific, measurable goals and are publicly tracking their progress. They're not just making vague promises, they're holding themselves accountable. Second, they've integrated sustainability into their core business strategy, aligning it with their overall goals and values. And third, they're investing real resources, time, money, and manpower into their sustainability initiatives.
I see your point. They're not just paying lip service to sustainability. They're backing it up with concrete actions and investments.
Yeah.
And that's what separates the truly committed companies from those who are just trying to ride the sustainability wave for marketing purposes.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean for investors? What's the takeaway from all this talk about sustainability?
Well, investors are increasingly looking for companies that are not only financially sound, but also environmentally and socially responsible.
Right.
XPO's commitment to sustainability is a positive sign for those who are looking for companies that are doing well by doing good. It can be a differentiator in attracting investors who prioritize ESG factors, environmental, social, and governance in their investment decisions.
That makes perfect sense. Investors are realizing that sustainability is not just about warm and fuzzy feelings. It's about long-term value creation. Companies that are proactive in this space are likely to be more resilient, adaptable, and ultimately more successful in the long run.
Exactly. And XPO seems to be well ahead of the curve in this regard. But let's shift gears for a moment and talk about something a little more speculative. Are you ready for our This Is Not Financial Advice segment?
Oh yes, this is the part where we let our imaginations run wild and explore some out-of-the-box ideas. Just remember, folks, this is purely for entertainment purposes.
Yeah.
Don't make any investment decisions based on our playful musings here.
Absolutely. We're just two podcast hosts with overactive imaginations, not licensed financial advisors. So with that disclaimer out of the way, what's on your mind?
Well, we've talked a lot about XPO's in-house trailer manufacturing capability, which is already giving them a significant competitive advantage. But what if they take it a step further? What if they decide to spin off their trailer manufacturing operation into a separate publicly traded company?
Now, that's an intriguing idea. I hadn't considered that possibility before. It's certainly plausible, especially considering how successful their trailer manufacturing has been so far.
Exactly. It would allow them to unlock even more value for their shareholders and potentially attract a whole new set of investors who are specifically interested in the trailer manufacturing space. They could become a major player in that market, especially given their expertise, scale, and cost efficiency.
It's a bold move, no doubt, but it could be a game changer for XPO and their investors. It would be a way to capitalize on their strength, focus on their core competencies, and potentially create two successful companies instead of one.
Right. Imagine the headlines: XPO spins off trailer manufacturing powerhouse, creates industry leader. It could be huge.
But remember, folks, this is all hypothetical. XPO would need to carefully evaluate the feasibility of such a move. They'd need to demonstrate consistent excellence in their trailer manufacturing operations, prove that the spinoff would create shareholder value, and navigate all the complexities of creating a new independent company. It's not a simple process by any means.
Of course, of course. It's easy to get carried away with these what-if scenarios. But hey, that's what this segment's all about: exploring the possibilities, thinking outside the box, and having a little fun with it.
And who knows, maybe our wild speculation will turn out to be prophetic. But for now, let's bring this speculative tangent to a close and get back to reality.
Agreed. Back to the world of facts and figures. But I have to say, that was a fun little mental exercise.
Yeah.
It's always good to think about the what-ifs and explore the potential for growth and innovation.
Absolutely. It keeps us on our toes and helps us see things from different perspectives. So with that said, let's wrap up our deep dive into XPO's Q4 2024 earnings call. What are your final thoughts on this company?
I'm genuinely impressed by what I'm seeing from XPO. They're a company that's firing on all cylinders. They're delivering strong financial performance, investing in their future, embracing sustainability, and even exploring new and innovative business models. They're definitely a company that's worth watching closely.
I couldn't agree more. They're a dynamic, forward-thinking company that's well-positioned for continued success. They're a leader in the transportation industry, and their commitment to customer service efficiency and sustainability is setting a new standard for others to follow.
They're definitely raising the bar. But before we get too carried away with our XPO enthusiasm, let's remind our listeners of one crucial point.
You're right. We need to reiterate our standard disclaimer. This is not financial advice.
We're just two podcast hosts sharing our thoughts and insights based on publicly available information.
We're not qualified financial advisors, and we don't know your individual financial situation or investment goals.
So please do your own research, consult with a qualified professional, and make informed decisions that are right for you.
You're here to entertain, inform, and spark your curiosity. But the ultimate responsibility for your investments lies with you.
Now, with that disclaimer out of the way, what are some key takeaways that our listeners should keep in mind as they think about XPO and the transportation industry as a whole?
Well, first and foremost, XPO is a company that's executing at a high level. They're delivering on their promises, exceeding expectations, and adapting to changing market conditions. They're a prime example of how a well-run company can thrive even in challenging times.
You know, one thing that really stood out to me in this earnings call was XPO's ability to grow their yield, even in a soft freight market. That's no easy feat, when you consider the pricing pressure that companies are facing right now.
Yeah, it's a testament to the strength of their service offering and their pricing discipline.
Yeah.
They're clearly delivering a value that customers are willing to pay a premium for.
Yeah.
They're not just competing on price, they're differentiating themselves through quality and reliability, which is a smart strategy in the long run.
Exactly. And, their focus on those premium services and those local customers,
Right.
It's a savvy move.
It is.
It allows them to capture higher margins and build deeper relationships with clients who value those specialized services and that personalized attention.
Yeah, it's a recipe for sustainable growth. They're not just chasing volume for the sake of volume. They're building a business that can thrive in any market environment by focusing on profitability and customer loyalty.
Well said.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before we wrap things up, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, their in-house trailer manufacturing capability.
Yeah.
I think this deserves even more attention because it could be a real game changer for XPO.
I agree. It's a unique asset that gives them a significant competitive advantage in the industry.
Yeah.
Most LTL carriers rely on third-party suppliers for their trailers, but XPO has taken control of this critical part of their supply chain.
Right. And not only does it reduce their reliance on external suppliers,
Yeah.
which could be subject to price fluctuations and supply chain disruptions,
Yeah.
but it also allows them to control the quality and
Yeah.
design of their trailers, ensuring they meet their specific needs and standards.
Right. They can optimize their fleet for efficiency and performance, tailoring the trailers to the types of freight they're hauling, the routes they're running, and even their sustainability goals. It's a level of control that most of their competitors simply don't have.
And this is where things get really interesting. And this kind of builds on our "this is not financial advice" segment from earlier.
Yeah.
What if XPO decides to spin off their trailer manufacturing operation into a separate publicly traded company?
That's a bold prediction, but I wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah.
If their trailer manufacturing proves to be as successful as it has the potential to be, it could become a very valuable standalone business.
Right.
And spinning it off would allow XPO to unlock that value, attract new investors, and perhaps even become a leader in the trailer manufacturing market.
Exactly. They've already demonstrated their expertise in designing, manufacturing, and managing a large-scale trailer fleet. They could leverage that expertise to serve other trucking companies, logistics providers, and even retailers who need high-quality customized trailers.
Yeah, it would be an interesting evolution for XPO. They could become a major player in two distinct but related industries, transportation and trailer manufacturing.
Right.
And as you mentioned earlier, it could create a lot of buzz and excitement in the investment community.
Imagine the possibilities.
Yeah.
But of course, this is all speculation.
Right.
It would be a complex undertaking for XPO, and there are a lot of factors they would need to consider before making such a move.
Absolutely. They would need to carefully analyze the market demand, assess the competitive landscape, and develop a solid business plan for the spinoff. It would be a major strategic decision with significant implications for the company and its shareholders.
Right. And they need to ensure that both the parent company and the spinoff are well positioned for success.
Right.
It's not a decision to be taken lightly,
Yeah.
but it's certainly an intriguing possibility and one that we'll be watching closely.
Agreed. Now, before we wrap up this episode of Talk Tickers, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought to ponder.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Oh.
What's on your mind?
Well, we've talked extensively about XPO's strengths, their impressive performance, and their potential for future growth.
Right.
But as with any company, there are also potential risks and challenges to consider.
Yeah, you're right. No company is perfect. And it's important to acknowledge that even the best-run businesses face headwinds from time to time. What are some of the things that investors should be aware of when it comes to XPO?
Well, one obvious risk is the cyclical nature of the transportation industry.
Yeah.
Economic downturns, changes in consumer spending, and fluctuations in fuel prices can all impact demand for freight services. And while XPO has demonstrated resilience in navigating these cycles, they're not immune to those broader economic forces.
That's a valid point. It's important to remember that the transportation industry is sensitive to economic fluctuations, and XPO's performance, even with their strong management and strategic execution, can be affected by those broader trends. What else?
Another risk is competition. The LTL market is highly competitive, with several large established players vying for market share. XPO has done a great job differentiating itself through service quality technology and strategic investments, but they need to remain vigilant and continue to innovate to stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah, that's true. Innovation is key in any industry, but especially in a fast-paced, evolving sector like transportation. Companies that fail to adapt and innovate risk being left behind.
Exactly. And finally, there's always the risk of execution. XPO has ambitious plans for growth and expansion both domestically and internationally. Successfully implementing those plans requires strong leadership, operational excellence, and a bit of luck. It's not a given that everything will go smoothly, and investors should be aware of those potential execution challenges.
Okay, those are all important points to consider. It's a good reminder that even with a company as strong as XPO, there are always risks to factor into your investment decisions. Thanks for bringing those to light.
Of course, it's important to have a balanced perspective, acknowledging both the opportunities and the potential challenges.
Well said. I think we've covered just about everything we wanted to discuss today. It's been a real deep dive into XPO, a company that's clearly making waves in the transportation industry.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating conversation, and I hope our listeners have found it insightful and informative.
Me too. And remember, folks, this is just the beginning of your research journey. Take what you've learned here, dig deeper, explore different perspectives, and make informed decisions that align with your investment goals.
And remember, we're here to help. Tune in to Talk Tickers for more earnings call, deep dives, market analysis, and thought-provoking discussions.
Thanks for joining us on this episode. We'll catch you next time on Talk Tickers. Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep investing in your knowledge.
See ya.